start out by mentioning to you, when I decided on the title to the message, I got some less powerful reading glasses so I could see it. And that's not working. I can see better without them. I just can't quite read yet without them. The message title, When the Storms Come. Not if. Because the storms are going to come. The storms are going to come. There are different storms for each one of us, and they come at different times in life. But they come, and they come repeatedly. I'd love to tell you, after Jesus was baptized, he spent 40 days without anything to eat, and then Satan came and tested him. And then Satan left him alone. No, he didn't. He continued to test him. There was a movie that came out, I don't know, 20 years ago maybe, called The Last Temptation of Christ. And it was a lousy movie in any number of ways. The theme behind it, though, was Satan's last attempt to get Jesus not to go to the cross for us. And then it was, and not to die there. To simply go back to Capernaum, marry Mary Magdalene, teach Sunday school someplace, and to hell with us. I mean, literally to hell with us, because that's where we were headed had Christ not died for us, and 3 days later, be raised from the dead. And so the storms come, and they come in a lot of forms. This hurricane that hit Rockport near Corpus Christi, Texas, hit landfall as a Category 4 hurricane. And then it came inland, and it's listed now as a tropical depression, but it's just tearing up people's lives because it's just sitting there spinning around and dumping not inches of rain, but feet of rain. And some things are just such a setup that you've just got no business trying to deal with it. I mean, that this hurricane's called Harvey, and it just sits and spins around and raises havoc with everybody around it. I don't know. Just one of those things. Let me read to you from Matthew what Jesus has to say about this. From the 7th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, beginning with the 24th verse. These are Jesus' words. All who listen to my instructions and follow them are wise, like a man who builds his house on solid rock. Though the rain comes in torrents, and the floods rise, and the storm winds beat against his house, it won't collapse, for it is built on the rock. But those who hear my instructions and ignore them are foolish, like a man who builds his house on sand. For when the rains and the floods come and the storm winds beat against the house, it will fall with a mighty crash. The crowds were amazed at Jesus' sermons, for he taught as one who had great authority, and not as their Jewish leaders. Now remember that Jesus taught in what we call parables, stories of the natural world which help us relate to the spiritual world and relate through Christ to our relationship with God. And what he starts out with here is all who listen and follow him. There's people who are just polite and will listen to you and then pay no attention to what you have to say. and they'll just go on out and do their own thing. I heard it said once, and it just seems like one of the things that people do. It's like, Lord, I'm going to go play on a slippery slope. I don't want you to build a fence around me. I just want you to park an ambulance at the bottom. And whether it's in a relationship with that friend at work, or whether it has to do with money, or with, well, everybody smokes a little dope, can't hurt, or everybody drinks something, can't hurt either. And then you find out that those kinds of things take you further than you wanted to go, and keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and cost you way more than what you thought you were going to spend. So Jesus says, if you listen to me, if you build your spiritual house on me, He's the rock, He's the foundation, then when the storms come, we'll stand firm. See, Jesus never promised us, you guys, that He'd keep the storms away from us. He promised to get us through it. And whether the storm comes physically or emotionally or spiritually, or whatever way it hits, you got to hang on to something. And if we hang on to Him, it doesn't mean we're not going to be battered. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be sad. It doesn't mean that we're not going to grieve or we'll never shed another tear in our life. It means, hang on, I'll get you through it. I'll get you through it. But those who hear my instructions and ignore them are foolish, like a man who builds his house on sand. When Jesus talks about this, he's talking about it from a spiritual level, but he's also talking about it from a practical level. What did Jesus do before He began His public ministry? He was a carpenter. He built, I don't know what he built. Some say he built yokes for oxen. Others say he built houses. We don't know what he built for sure. But he was a carpenter, and he knew about building, and he knew about foundations, and he knew about construction. So he's talking to them not only from a physical standpoint, but he's also, as Matthew writes, he spoke with spiritual authority. And a spiritual authority that they had never heard before. Build your house on the rock. More importantly, listen to me. Listen to me and do what I say, and become wise. It doesn't say do it and become rich. Do it and become powerful. It says do it and become wise. Wealth and power doesn't bring you wisdom. I've run into some pretty ridiculous people that were able to make a lot of money and tell other people what to do, but they certainly weren't wise. And there's a difference between being smart and being wise. Jesus says, listen to me and become wise. If we don't, if we build our lives on the sand, when the storms come, there's nothing to hang on to. We've got a terrible example of that up in Boise, with those people that built those big, beautiful homes on what they thought was a firm foundation. Well, I don't know how this is going to come out. I know it will come out in a court decision, of course. But I would imagine that the builder trusted the contractor, who trusted the people that gave him the permit to build up there. But the foundation was on sand. And the sand began to move. And when it did, man, as expensive as those homes are and as well-built as they may have been in the beginning, here's the pile of rubble. It just didn't work. The people, I was watching on TV, of course, with everybody, the devastation that came, and they're going to rebuild. They'll rebuild in Galveston, and they'll rebuild in Rockport, because why? Because they want to live on the Gulf of Mexico. They want to live on the beach. Okay. But know that when you do that, that the storms will come. The hurricanes have been coming forever. And when they do, then you either need to be wise enough to leave, or be whatever you think it is for people to stay there and face Mother Nature and try to get through it. And understand that if it goes wrong, it can go horribly wrong. Barbara's roommate in college married a medical student while he was still a medical student, and he became a cardiologist in New Orleans. He was one of the last doctors to leave the big hospital in New Orleans. He said that a National Guard general actually saved his life. He said he didn't realize how physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually exhausted he was, because he just kept trying to help these people that were coming into the hospital and were into the hospital stay alive during Hurricane Katrina. So he said that the general ordered him out of the hospital, called a helicopter to take him away. When he got out to where his big home was, it wasn't. It was gone completely. And he said, I don't blame God, and I don't blame the city architects. He said, Gary, I chose to build that house on Lake Pontchartrain and have that beautiful view because that's where I wanted to live. And he said, I really didn't think about Katrina, but he said, I knew it's a possibility that when you live close to the water and there's a big storm, you may lose everything. And he said, Sally and I are fine, but the house is gone. So the house is gone. So he chose to move further north in Mississippi and restart his cardiology practice up there. He said, yes, I built it, I had it. It wasn't maybe the best idea I ever had, but I'm not going to repeat it. He became wise. He became wise. And it's how we become wise. Wisdom comes with experience. And a lot of times, experience comes from making bad decisions. And so it isn't about making a bad decision, it's about not making the bad decisions repeatedly. I heard a pastor say that dating is designed to eliminate the people you don't want to spend the rest of your life with. I know. Just think about that a minute. Dating is designed to eliminate the people you don't want to spend the rest of your life with. But be wise. Be wise about who you date. Be wise about who you marry. Be wise about how you conduct your life. I watched one of the, last week, I watched one of the Little League World Series games. Boy, if you ever needed hope for America, it's still going on. Watch a Little League World Series game. Watch the sportsmanship and the honor and the character and what goes on with those kids who are playing for the love of the game and the values that they get from that and the values that they have. The wisdom of children, if you will. Build your house on the rock. Don't build your house on the sand. Listen to Christ. Be aware of what's going on around us. Be aware of what's going on globally and politically and economically and militarily and all of those things. But be wise. Be wise. Build your house on the rock. And when the storms come, cling to Him. Amen? Amen. Okay.